and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today we have a very special guest. He's joining us for the very first time, and I would like to read his bio before we bring him online. Dr. Gautam Sen, lecturer, retired, London School of Economics and Political Science, UK. He's a well-known writer and international political economist. He has particular expertise in South Asian, American, and British foreign and international economic policies. Dr. Sen was an advisor to the Prime Minister's office in Bharat on economic liberalization and Indo-Nepal relations, and appointed a member of the Eminent Persons Group of the Indo-UK Roundtable. Dr. Sen taught at the London School of Economics and Political Science for more than 2 decades. Dr. Sen, welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaste. Thank you.
Dr. Sen, you have been residing in the United Kingdom for at least 2 decades, I take it.
And 5, actually.
Oh, 5 decades. My God, I'm so sorry about that. I thought I'll be safe and say at least 2 decades. So the UK goes to polls tomorrow. And what is your take on what is going to happen in the elections, and a little bit perhaps on how you see the future of United Kingdom?
Well, you know, like all elections, it is virtually impossible to make an accurate prediction. My gut feeling is that the Conservative Party may end up with a small majority of between 12 and 20, but the likelihood of a hung parliament in which they do not have a majority is entirely possible.
Oh, wow. That yours is a much closer forecast than what I have been seeing. So 2 weeks ago, it was about 68. Then it came down to 28, I think. YouGov website I was looking at. And looks like a certain popular Hollywood actor has thrown his ring, a popular Hollywood actor threw his hat into the ring, and he's been campaigning for Labour and I think the Liberal Democrats. I couldn't really make out. What are, do you think that the British populace is going to fall for Hugh Grant's charms?
I think there are people certainly in the area of North London, Hampstead, where he's held in extremely high esteem. It is the artistic end of London homes, and indeed. But the person who is the Labour MP, that Tulip Siddiqui, has a very large majority. So I suppose Hugh Grant is not required in that particular constituency.
But if there is a hung parliament, then again you'll be back to all this, dealing, and perhaps they'll have to sit down with the Scottish National Party to see if they can form a coalition. What are your thoughts on that? But why is it becoming tighter? I thought the race, nothing has gone worse for the Conservatives, right?
In the last 11 years of austerity, there are many people who have been hurt, particularly the working poor, most of all. Women pensioners whose pension age has been advanced from 60 to 65 and scheduled to go even higher. They are disgruntled. And the Tory policies of austerity have been harsh, particularly during the time of David Cameron and John Osborne, who was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. So many are unhappy. And there is an underlying longer historical change of, for the first time, the millennials, the under 30s now, being much worse off than their grandparents. There is a tension between the welfare of this younger group and the older group. And it is indeed the case that the younger group has faced many challenges. For example, it is very difficult for them to buy a home nowadays because the price of houses is so high in many parts of England, particularly the southeastern London. They are also carrying significant student debt now, which is worth, I think, 100 billion in total. So they have cause to reach out to a party which is promising them not merely the moon, but the entire planet within 100 days.
How do you think that is possible? Because the Labour is all about redistribution of wealth, but the wealth itself is not getting created, don't you think?
I think the problem is not so much the desire to redistribute wealth, with which I personally have considerable sympathy. But their plans are rather dreamlike. It is as if they will wave a magic wand and instantly raise taxes on the somewhat better off and transfer it. Now, for a country of the size of the UK, which is a price taker in economics, not a price maker, this is very, very difficult. Investors will flee, the stock market will collapse, and for pragmatic reasons, whatever you want to do cannot be done so easily. So it really doesn't matter what their aspirations are, how good they are. They need to be extremely pragmatic, thought through, and I suspect have a longer term horizon, none of which is evident from what the leaders of the Labour Party are saying and or in their manifesto.
Now, let's take a look at the impact of Brexit on the UK economy. This is now hung for, I think, 2 years now. And I've read that many financial institutions have now set up shop in France and in Germany and so on. In fact, I was in Paris recently and I saw their financial district. It is coming up. I mean, there has been some exodus from United Kingdom to France and mainland Europe. But so there is even less wealth going around, isn't it?
I think that it is indeed the case that many companies in the UK, in the City of London, have set up offices in Dublin, Frankfurt, and the French are very keen to take a large piece of the pie out of the City of London, which remains, despite the size of the economy, an important financial center, in fact, only second to New York, though Chinese cities are also providing competition. Now, they may start moving slowly, but once a critical minimum of personnel and activity has been transferred to another venue, then it will become quite a large surge. The problem with losing financial services over here in the interim is that, apart from the impact on house prices, which will be terrible because the house price levels gravitate out of the city further and further away. So once those big bonuses are no longer being plowed into housing, there will be a problem with house prices. That's one. But the other more immediate problem is that the City of London, for all its many evils that we know, is a significant contributor to total tax revenue in the UK. And this reduction in tax revenue places immediate pressure on government spending and the many commitments which are unavoidable. For example, health, education, salaries. So this will create a problem.
So promises apart, even if, let's say, the Labour managed coalition comes to power, reality that they could be potentially killing the goose that lays the golden egg would perhaps make them to dial down some of their promises. I mean, you know how parties will promise you the moon, but when it comes to implementation, there's always, walking back of some of those things. They may not say it, but they'll say it's under consideration, it's under active consideration. I'm just quoting Prime Minister here, but do you see something like that happen? That Labour might have to move towards the center, and Conservatives perhaps may have to also move towards the center.
It's a bit like game of chicken. When it comes to the last moment and you're about to have the collision, you may have to do something to avoid it. And the crisis will be so severe, the matter will be taken out of their hands. They will have to change course. The pound will collapse, for example. Many pension funds, insurance companies, which are big investors in the city, will be in trouble, and that means there is damage to the payment of pensions because it's on a ratio of assets to income and payouts. So all of these problems will quickly hit the government, and they will have to change course. The Tories have also promised significant spending increases, and they too will face some severe challenges and not be able to deliver the many promises they have made. Now, in the last few weeks, they have backtracked somewhat. And they have all backtracked from the issue of student loans because it is such a large sum which the fund will have to have serviced by somebody or the other. But Brexit in itself will create many problems. My own feeling is quite neutral about the politics of Brexit, but there is definitely a short to medium term cost. There's no doubt. About the long term, we can be less sure what the cost will be. But the proportion of UK trade with Europe is so large, and then it is also proximate, that to substitute that with a vast increase in trade with the United States and the rest of the world in Asia, etc., would be unprecedented. This does not seem likely. And the economies of the world today are integrated not in the exchange of final products. They are integrated in what we call intra-firm trade. They are trading components, parts. To disentangle all this is at the very least very expensive. And there are other smaller things. For example, there is a cost to a Britain open to the world economy having to comply with rules of origin before exports from the United Kingdom are allowed to enter the EU. So every firm which is importing components will have to keep very careful records. It is in some respects a nightmare. And if I may just add my 2 pennies worth more on this, there was a downside to being in Europe, I do recognize, particularly on the question of completely open border. Because the London and Southeast labour market is very attractive for everyone. So all the people from the weaker new economies tend to come towards London in larger numbers than they go elsewhere. Germany, of course, is one other exception. So this is a downside for the economy. But the solution to this is the obvious one of a customs union. And the reason why they don't want a customs union is, first of all, politically, the anti-Brexit party of Nigel Farage will not accept it, and it will contest all the seats and make sure the Conservatives don't get into power. That's one problem. And the other problem is that you have to give up the ability to influence trade negotiations in the European Union. You will have to simply take as given whatever negotiations they do without you being a participant. But I would say on that, why do you think 29 countries will all together negotiate a deal which is bad for themselves and bad for you?
Absolutely, right.
Channels of communication where good ideas and sensible ideas will of necessity be taken on board. So I think a customs union would have been the best solution in the current circumstances, but that is politically very difficult. But I will just add one other sting to the tail. Whatever the agreement Boris Johnson gets if he wins power, in the actual trade negotiations, I have a suspicion they will start approximating somewhat close to what will be a customs union when they actually negotiate on the issue in substance.
Well, to shamelessly use an existing phrase, we'll have to see how much mojo BoJo is going to display when he comes back as Prime Minister. Dr. Sen,
I just have 2 quick points on BoJo. Boris's own seat is not secure. So it may end up with the Tory party in power without Boris. And secondly, he's made a faux pas in that hospital incident where he was momentarily stunned when he was shown the picture of the young 4-year-old lying on the ground on the hospital corridor. And he was somewhat stunned. I feel myself, he was genuinely surprised and dumbfounded and could not make a response. So I don't hold that against him, but it may count against the Tory party.
These are going to be tightly contested elections. And in the past, the British Indians have had a spotty percentage of voting, in the sense that only 30 to 35% I heard show up to vote. And I would like to, again, tell all the Britons who are watching this video to please go out and cast your vote. Take your grandma, take your nanima, everybody needs to exercise your vote. We're not saying which way you need to vote. We leave that to you. In summation, Dr. Sen, if there is a hung parliament, how do you see that play out?
If there's a hung parliament, they will have to have a referendum on the European Union Brexit issue. I can't see a solution. They can't have another election as they're going to do in Israel thrice in 1 year.
Right, right.
So the only alternative is to have an election or a referendum, but there will be a contest of what the questions to be posed are. That will be a problem.
Yes.
But I then cannot see any other way out of this impasse.
Wow, tough days ahead and very interesting times. And we'll see how it plays out. Dr. Sen, thank you very much for joining our channel. And viewers, will be back with more such interesting conversations. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel. And also, if you can find it in your heart to donate to our channel, we will be happy to accept any amount of donations that you give. Thank you very much, Dr. Sen, and see you soon.
My pleasure.